Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a little co-host with me. He's going to be around because he's just so needy and I'm okay with that. As you can tell by the title of this video, I had COVID-19. So I'm ready for a proper sit-down chat to talk to you about my experience and all that good stuff. I've got my notebook, I've got my drink, and I've got my emotional support animal, and we are good to go. What I want to start off by saying is, as a little disclaimer, I didn't actually go get tested while I had it to get a positive or anything. I found out by having my blood work done and having the antibody test, and I'm tested positive for that. Now, I do want to say there has been a lot of false positives, so I'm sure also false negatives. No one fully understands this disease, even the experts, so of course there's a chance that mine was a false positive. However, I had a lot of symptoms and I felt horrible, so I don't think it was false. My husband did not get it, and we were not social distancing, so his could have been false negative? I don't know, but that's just one little thing to think about. But secondly, I want to explain why I had it and didn't go get tested at the time, because some people could be upset at me for that. I have my reasons, okay? I was social distancing when I had it, just in case I had it. So how this all started, let me refer to my notes. So when this whole thing started, it was back in June, beginning of July, but June. End of June is when it started, and right now it is August 1st. So what happened, my husband and I went to Texas, which you would know if you are already following me. I have some Texas vlogs going up. We were in Texas June 9th to the 25th. The 25th was when we were traveling back, and we got back on the 26th. I live in South Carolina, family lives in Texas. That's that explanation. So I'm going to explain now why I didn't go get tested at the time, and that's because when I started feeling sick, it was June 25th. And that was, like, we were in the car doing a straight 23-hour drive or whatever it was. He's done. And that was when I started feeling sick. But I didn't think anything of it because what I was feeling was a really bad sore throat and I couldn't breathe great through my nose. Like, I was just stuffy. My dad told me at the time, like when we were on the trip, that he also had a little bit of like you know, that kind of stuff. And Tony was feeling it too, and he had like a really stuffy nose and a sore throat. That wasn't weird because we were actually driving back during the Saharan dust storm thing, which I'm still not fully aware of what happened because I was focused on other things when it was going down, but we were driving back through it the entire time. We had the air in the car circulation thing, not recirculating air because of COVID, but bringing in air from outside. So we were bringing in all that dust. And so we assumed we're having like itchy throats and stuffy noses because we were breathing in dust for 23 hours. And that makes perfect sense, right? I don't know. That's the first thing that kind of made us like, oh, this is nothing. It's just the dust. Which, at that time, maybe it was. I don't know. However, my dad, I think he only felt that itchy throat that day. Tony, my husband, then felt sick for 3 days. And so I was still feeling sick. And we're like, yeah, this just hit us pretty hard. One, we kind of changed climates because Texas and South Carolina is pretty different. And then we drove back through dust and all that stuff. We're like, yeah, it's just hitting us hard. We're really tired. Our bodies are weaker, all that kind of stuff. So that was another reason why we didn't think anything of it. His went away in 3 days. Mine didn't. Another thing I should probably tell you is I am a type 1 diabetic, which diabetics, at least type 1 diabetics, are kind of known that our bodies don't fight things off as well as other people. So maybe I was just suffering a little bit longer. It just got to me more. I don't know. Whatever. So when a week later happened and I was still feeling really bad, we're like, okay, maybe I should go get tested for COVID because why not? I'm still feeling sick. This is weird. Tony feels better. I don't. So when we were going to do it, the ones that you could kind of go online to get the ball rolling and getting tested and stuff was CVS Pharmacy. And what they did, because there's a limited number of tests. They do a little pre-screening thing to see if you really should be tested or not. And they had a list of symptoms, and I had like one on the list. Maybe there were 6 or 7 symptoms that they were listing off, and they were asking, in the past 24 hours, have you felt any of these? I had felt like one of them, and 2 or 3 of the other ones I had already been feeling. I didn't really feel anymore. I was kind of feeling better from that. So it recommended that I didn't get tested. So we're like, okay, well, I am kind of feeling a little bit better. Maybe we're good now. I don't know. So then another week passes and I don't feel, I mean, it all kind of comes back. But at that point, we're like, I don't know. I'm just going to do my own social distancing, that kind of stuff. And so I did. I did start feeling better after 2 weeks, and then there was a blood drive going on at our church. So, you know, you're getting your blood drawn for free. You're donating blood. And they were also going to do the antibody test. We're like, let's do it and let's just find out, just to know, you know, because why not? Well, mine came back positive, and that brings us to now. So, also, another big thing, at the time, one of the biggest, it seemed like, at least in our circle, one of the biggest things that people were stressing about with if you have COVID or if you're allowed to go anywhere or do anything is if you had a fever. I never had a fever. I was consistently 97 degrees Fahrenheit, and I didn't feel feverish or anything. I didn't have any of that kind of stuff. So we're like, we just felt, because of everything we hear and all the restaurants and doctor's offices and stuff that don't let you in, is, at the time, was if you had a fever. I'm like, I don't have anything close to a fever, so I'm fine then. It's just dumb. If I could go back, I would have gotten tested, honestly. But you can't go back. My purpose for making this video isn't for like attention or to be dramatic or anything like that. My purpose for making this video is to just share what I went through, share the symptoms I had, and also just, you know, put out there what happened in case anyone comes across it and is interested in knowing. There's been a lot of lying and deceiving going on around the coronavirus and stuff, and so I just want to put out my honest experience. So that is why I'm doing this. So anyways, now I'm going to go into what my symptoms were. So I started feeling sick on the 25th. I had a sore throat and trouble breathing through my nose. Tony, like, that's when he started feeling sick too. He felt sick for about 3 days. So he was lightheaded, dizzy, he had shortness of breath, he had some sinus stuff and a sinus headache, and he had chills, and he felt feverish, but he also was consistently 97. So, don't know. But he said, like, on day 3, like, after day 3, it pretty much all went away. Pretty much. And so, maybe he had it and he has a false negative. I don't know. So then my symptoms lasted for about 2 weeks. Some lasted 3.5, 4 weeks, but most of my bad symptoms were 2 weeks. I was laying on the couch, kind of out of commission for 2 weeks. So my symptoms consisted of a headache. I had a headache for 2 weeks straight. It was absolutely miserable. Miserable. And in the second week of having the headache, I think it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday, I got a migraine, like a full-blown migraine. This was probably the 7th migraine I've ever had in my life, and I started having them 4.5 years ago. Migraines aren't that common for me, so that was just, ugh. That migraine lasted for 3 days. And then maybe 2 days or so after that, I started getting another one on the other side of my head. And like, for me, when I get migraines, it's usually down the middle, one side or the other. A few days after that first migraine, I started to get another one, but then I very quickly took Excedrin for migraines, and it subsided before turning into a full-on migraine, so thank you for that. Anyways, I also had a slight loss of taste. It wasn't severe, it lasted for like a day or two, and what it was like I could still taste my food, but what made it like noticeable to me, because it wasn't super severe, was I always have my hot tea in the morning and I put Splenda in it. I do not do plain tea. Sweet tea is the way to go. But because I'm diabetic, I use Splenda. It's usually pretty sweet. I put the same amount I always put in, and I was drinking it and I'm like, this tastes like dirt. Like bitter, bitter, bitter. Ugh. So I would put more Splenda in. Still didn't really taste it. And I'm like, you know what, with the amount of Splenda I have in it right now, this should be real sweet. And it wasn't. So I put in more. I started tasting a little bit of sweet, and I'm like, that's plenty, because I know I have way too much Splenda in this, so I'm just gonna have to suffer. And that happened one day, and I think it was like I think it was like a day or two later when I felt it again. Then I also had slight loss of smell. That wasn't as prevalent in the beginning, but towards the end, how we could tell, I mean, my husband was smelling all sorts of stuff that is normal to smell, and I couldn't smell anything. He put stuff up to my face to smell. Couldn't smell anything. I have a candle warmer in my office with a lovely vanilla candle on it that I love. I love vanilla. I had it on right beside me. It usually smells up the whole house. I couldn't smell it at all. I put my nose up to it. Couldn't smell it at all. That lasted for about 4 weeks. Like, it wasn't too long ago that I finally could start smelling stuff again, which that's kind of good in some ways and kind of annoying in others. So other symptoms I had, I was weak, dizzy, shortness of breath. Those were very, very annoying. So I'd be laying down on the couch and I would start getting really bored. I started running out of stuff to watch. We had just got back from Texas, so I had bags to unpack that I didn't have energy to do. So whenever I would get bored enough, I would get up and I'm like, I'm putting some clothes away. I'm sick of looking at this and I'm bored to death. I'd get up, hang like 3 or 4 shirts and be like, oh my gosh, I can't. It was bad. It was really hard to catch my breath. It didn't take long of me standing or moving around to get dizzy and feel like I need to sit down. I can't breathe. And so I laid back down. And that was annoying. The shortness of breath part, that lasted for like 3 weeks or so. And then the other things, I had an itchy throat still, which was more so in the beginning. It didn't last the entire 2 weeks. But I also couldn't really breathe from my nose, and that lasted the whole time. Like, I would take medicine, what did I take? Sudafed, and it would clear it up. It did help, but it felt like I can breathe, but I can tell, like, I'm breathing through medicine. Like, I can tell I'm on medicine, and if I wasn't, I wouldn't be feeling good. That kind of thing. That was really annoying. But I think the 2 worst symptoms I had for me was the shortness of breath and the headaches. They were nonstop. The only time they would stop is if I had an ice pack on my head, which you're not supposed to have that kind of stuff on your head. You're not supposed to have ice on you for like more than 20 minutes at a time. I had it on it till it was just not icy anymore, like a gel pack, you know? And then I'd have to go put it in the freezer and wait forever, and then it would come right back. But having the ice on my head did greatly minimize the headache. Just saying. If you want to know like what kind of headache it wasn't really a sinus headache. I mean, it was pretty much like my whole head just, oof, it hurt. I do not miss that. That was terrible. That pretty much sums up my symptoms. It could have been so much worse. And I'm diabetic. It could have been so much worse for me. I mean, we are extremely blessed that it wasn't worse and that no one around me and no one who I drove back in the car with got it. Because we drove back with my parents and my mom's diabetic too. She's over 60 and diabetic. Sorry, Mom, to disclose your age. You look amazing. But that could have been really bad if she got it. And so I'm glad I got it and no one else did, because I was able to handle it. Like, I was fine. Praise the Lord. He kept his hand on me and my family. Like, yeah, I got it, but it could have been so much worse. And I'm so blessed that it wasn't any worse. But that sums up my experience. Just wanted to share it. If anyone else wants to know what it was like, or just to know that, yeah, not everyone's gonna die who gets it, but yeah, it's real. I feel like there aren't a ton of people in the middle ground of understanding that, no, it's not as severe as some people make it out to be, but it's definitely a thing and you still need to be careful and respectful of other people. They're either like, oh my goodness, this is the end of the world, we're all going to die, or this is all a hoax, there is no coronavirus, blah, 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 blah. Neither are true. And just because it didn't affect me any worse doesn't mean that it wouldn't affect you any worse or someone else any worse. That's kind of like the whole thing of like doing your part, and it's not just about protecting yourself, because there's a lot of people there who don't care. Like, give it to me, I don't care. I was kind of that way. Honestly though, it's not all about you. Like, I don't want to... For the people who don't care, that's very selfish. There are a lot of people out there who can get really hurt. And even like with what I experienced, it wasn't great, you know? Like, I don't want to go through it again. I would go through it if it meant someone else didn't have to, that kind of thing, but I don't want to go through it again. I don't know. Whatever. Just, there's my experience. Hope you found something of this useful. I hope I didn't offend anybody or make anybody mad. It was just an informational video. Thank you for watching. If you happen to have any questions about this, I would be more than happy to answer in the comments or make another video answering questions if you have any. but this is pretty straightforward. I will say, like, if you're a diabetic and wondering like if it did anything to my blood sugar levels or anything like that, not really. I mean, it didn't affect me really more than like anything else or like being any other kind of sick. Mighty. Anyways, thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful for you if you made it all the way to the end. And I usually say if you enjoyed this video, then to give it a thumbs up, but it's a little weird. If you found this video helpful, then give it a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day and stay safe. Mwah.